Heyo everybody, Haku here with a review and discussion for the, I guess it's Fear the Walking Dead Flight 462. So I definitely went back over just earlier right before filming this so I could just go over and make sure I had everything down part by part. So we're going to break this down part by part through all the 16 parts. I'm going to give my overall thoughts and a score, and then just a quick discussion on because I know we need to discuss like how we all think it's going to tie in with the actual season, because the timeline does seem a bit iffy. So I'm going to put my thoughts out there, and then of course we'll see what you guys think if you put it in the comments, and we can talk about that a bit. But I guess let's first get into breaking it down part by part. Now the first part, they're just getting into the plane, but it just, watching it again like 2 to 4 times, they sound really panicked. They sound like, okay, not all is right in the world, that they know something sketchy, something screwy's going down. So it kind of makes me think that, I don't know really how to put this. It sort of makes me lean towards that maybe society is starting to fall, because we hear screams through the phone when the guy's talking to his mom at some point, and she would have been just right back there before they took off at the place, and they hadn't taken off yet. So it just seems to me like it seems like things are already bad. So, but there are parts where they're acting like it's normal and stuff, so I do have a feeling that there were a bit of plot holes, and it's not that we need to think about it or discuss it, it's just that there were holes in the explanations. But I think that this is already, say, around the time that all the riots and stuff were happening at Los Angeles, or it could even be after that to further help the timeline, and we would just say that, LA fell quicker than some other places, like the place where they were leaving from. And because of the way things were, not everything was communicated that well. Nobody knew how bad it really was. So I am thinking that maybe that is sort of the case, because they weren't planning to go to LA to begin with anyway. So I'm not sure. The timeline is a bit iffy, but starting off when they get on the plane, it seems like they don't know like really about the disease or anything, but the world is already in the process of crumbling. Now, in the second part is where we find out the one guy is sick, he's throwing up, he looks like he's sweating a bit, and the cell phones stop working. Again, not much in each part, so that's all we got. They were only about like 30 seconds to a minute at most. In part 3, we find out through some exposition that the kid is the kid's on the plane without his mom. He got the last seat, and his mom is waiting for another flight. And that, what else was it? Oh yeah, that his dad would be waiting for him when they landed in Phoenix. And I think that's kind of relatively important, and I'll explain why when we get to the part later on. So in part 4, the sick guy goes to the bathroom, and pretty much the sick guy's wife is just a bitch. Like, she is so rude to people. Like, I'm not saying that to like be rude, or like, I hope it doesn't sound degrading to women, because I'm not like trying to use the word bitch in that way. I'm saying like she just went after people and like said things to them that I'm like, proper manners would never allow me to say to a person, like that she hadn't even met. Like what is it? The Asian chick, Charlie, just she leans over and asks a simple, innocent question: how long has your husband been sick? And the wife, this chick says, none of your goddamn business, or mind your goddamn business. What? Why would you talk to people like that? That's really freaking bad. But yeah, that was just something I noticed personally. It didn't really have any bearing on the story. But something that did have bearing on the story, we find out during this part that somebody mentions I think it was the kid, yeah. Most of them didn't have names, so I'm just calling them random whatever, the wife, the kid. But the kid, he mentions a flu going around, or some type of flu going around. So it says that the disease is going around and it could possibly be killing a bunch of people. I feel like the flights would maybe not be running as much if that's the case, but who knows in a situation like that, you know? I mean, we can say what we think things would or should be like, but given that we've never lived an experience like that where the world is essentially crumbling, we can't know how things would run at a day-to-day thing because everything's happening very quickly. And in part 5, pretty much all that happens is the lights down below start to go out. And again, I think that would probably put us a little bit after that looting phase. It would put us before they were sequestered or quarantined into the zone in the original series, maybe a little before that, or even during that, depending on how far ahead Los Angeles devolved than wherever we're currently at. Part 6, they pretty much say that we're over Phoenix. So we know that we're over Phoenix now, and the lights have gone out, so there's no real way to land there. And also we find out that the guy that went to the bathroom is now dead. Part 7, we find out that we cannot land at Phoenix, so we're going to be going to LA. That's probably going to add a couple more hours to our timeline, certainly not nearly enough to catch up where we probably should be, but I think it can make sense if LA went into this bad place of getting quarantined and everything outside the gates are dead, that type of thing. Maybe if they went into that earlier than, say, Phoenix, those few hours going from night to day, that it could kind of explain how that all worked out. Also, we find out that the guy was bit, and again, to me, that seems like in any justifiable situation, it really does feel like maybe security would have checked for that sort of thing, given that the disease has to already be going around for this timeline to sort of make sense. But if it was going around, you'd think that security would know to check for people who'd been bit or were exhibiting symptoms. So that one's a bit of a head scratcher to me, but like I said, this probably does have some plot holes here and there. 8 was pretty quick. The guy just wakes up as a walker when they try to revive him. For part 9, the flight marshal and Charlie, they shove the guy who was bit and turned into a walker. They shoved the walker into the bathroom, locked him in there, and we find out that the attendant has gotten scratched. It's really shallow. So again, this is going to be one of those things where I'm wondering, okay, is she going to turn? Is she going to get the fever? Because it was just a light scratch, but I would think that's enough given what we know so far of the walkers. So it'll be interesting to see what they do there. One thing I think that they could do is have them chop off her arm, or her arm gets chopped off in the crash or something, and maybe that's how we find out if you chop the body part off, you're alright. It may be a bit too early for that though, so that's just wild speculation on my part. Part 10, again, not much happened. It's just Charlie and the the air marshal. They try to get the flight attendant to talk to the captain, but she tells them, it's already done. It's already too late. There's nowhere to land left. LA has already gone dark. So they're going to LA despite it already being dark. They're probably just trying to find a place to land. So I think that could potentially add more to the theory that LA was already gone. They were just going that way because outside of Arizona, LAX might have been the easiest, most open airstrip to try to get into, the largest or whatever. So maybe that's why they did it. But again, not sure. The timeline of this, and a lot of other people have brought it up, the timeline doesn't make total sense. So we may have to do some logical stretches here and there. So for part 11, all my notes say are the wife is an idiot. So I'm assuming this is the part she just opens the door and lets the walker out, and that's pretty much it. And again, I get you're emotional, your husband just died or whatever, or you think he's sick, but he just did wake up and try to attack everyone, and that's why they shoved him in there to begin with. So I just feel like she should have known better, or should have been a bit more considerate. I mean, she was a complete asshole like before, but I mean, you'd figure she would have been more considerate about this entire thing. But then after that, what are we at? Part 12? No? Yeah, part 12. So part 12 is where we get the walker kills the wife, and then he starts coming after everybody else, and the air marshal shoots him a bunch. And I know whenever something like this happens, like in the early Fear the Walking Dead and stuff, everybody's like, oh, don't they know they need to shoot them in the head? What the heck is this? It should be obvious to shoot them in the head. But like actual real police and military personnel are generally like taught, if you have to shoot, you're not trying to kill them, you're just trying to stop them and save you and whoever else so that you could capture them or whatever. You typically don't shoot for the head because it's an unreliable target, and even being a reliable target, you don't always want to kill the person. So you shoot for center of body mass, way easier to hit, and a chance of the person not dying. So for him to be an air marshal or any police officer, they obviously wouldn't just shoot at a person's head, or at least they shouldn't. So that's why it would make sense for him to not just shoot the guy in the head, because for all he knows, the dude did bite the wife's throat out, but he's just trying to stop the guy and save everybody else on the plane at this point. He's not trying to kill the walker. So as for part 13, the walker, of course, jumps on the air marshal. Charlie pulls the guy off, and the walker's coming after her. So then the kid climbs over the seats, hands the knitting needle to her, and she stabs the walker with that and takes out the walker. And I think that was it for part 13. Oh, and part 13 we also saw the window was cracked from the gunshot. The bullet had gone through and the window was like spiderweb cracking around it. Leading into part 14, where Charlie finishes off the guy's wife, and then the window fully busts out. The plane, of course, would lose pressure and starts going down. I think that's how that works. I haven't taken any physics courses in a while or anything, but I'm pretty sure that's how that works. So then part 15, they all just scramble to the seats. I'm not sure if it's 15 or 16, but one of the two, we find out that Charlie took the kid's mom's seat, and she was at the last seat on the plane or whatever. So he's like, it's all right, she's probably already with my dad. So damn, this kid only knows what's happening on the plane, but he thinks his mom and dad are both dead wherever they may be. So damn, he must think it's like just completely gone everywhere. Immediate worst case scenario thinking. But beyond that I did think was a little, well, why does he instantly think all that? I know it's kind of a shocking event and circumstance that he's in, and maybe, again, this was further along than we thought in the downfall of humanity, so maybe if it was further along, that's why he thinks they're dead, because he knows more about how the world's falling apart. But even then, that would make it not make sense. Like, okay, then why was that guy not checked for bites, and why were they acting so calm mid-flight? So there are things that kind of argue against each other here and there. And then in part 16, the final part, it ties into the scene that we saw in the first season of Fear the Walking Dead with Nick trying to break into that one house, and he looks up and sees the plane starts tilting, which is a really cool tie-in. Now for my thoughts, part by part, I gave no shit week to week. It didn't, there was nothing there. There were 30 seconds. I couldn't get into it whatsoever. But marathoning it, I think it's really good. I think it's pretty darn good. I mean, I think the acting was a little spotty here and there with some of the minor characters. But, oh yeah, and that one, there are a little bit of plot hole type issues, but I feel like we may get some of that resolved in season 2. They could always fix whatever confusion we had with this. And of course the wife was just strangely a dick. But other than all of that, I did think it was good. Like, if you marathon it, it's a good little short. So as a short, as a little webisode, I will give it a 7 questionable timelines out of 10. Because, yeah, 7 out of 10. I thought it was really good for a short, but just in general, it wasn't that great. It was just, it was all right. It wasn't like terrible or anything. Of course not. So, into the discussion portion of this, I've got to say that for the timeline, I think maybe the flight was further along than we thought into humanity's downfall, and that's why that makes sense. And we're thinking, okay, if it crashed, this had to have crashed from when that scene with Nick was to the finale. We know for sure it's had to have been 2 days to a week. I know at least 2 days have passed, but they could say up to a week has passed potentially, given how everything was. Maybe at least 3 days now that I think about it. Because Nick was gone one night. Or did they save him the same night that he went away? I thought that was the second night, because they had to torture the guy the one day to get information. So that was definitely 2 nights, and they're into the 3rd day when they go to Strand's place. So it's been at least 2 days since the thing crashed. So people would be saying, okay, why does it look so fresh, or why, like, so fresh of a crash, or why is Charlie still wearing the same clothes? I'm thinking that maybe they crashed on some, like, deserted, maybe not a deserted island, but maybe they're on a small island or something, or on a beach where Charlie was just sort of stranded there. And maybe being stranded there is why, of course, she's in the same clothes, and everything looks so fresh, because she hasn't had time to settle anywhere else. She's just been trapped there. And another thing I wanted to discuss is the characters I think survived or want to survive. We know Charlie's going to be in season 2. I wasn't a big fan of that kid, but if he survives, that's cool. Honestly, he reminds, like, him and Tobias are very visually similar to me. They're kind of a chubby kid with the same little doofy haircut. But I would much rather see Tobias come back than have this kid added to the cast personally. Then, of course, there's a flight attendant. I think it'd be interesting if she didn't turn from just the small scratches, or if they chopped off her arm or something and she joined. I think that'd be very interesting. Then what else? Oh yeah, and the air marshal guy, I don't think he was bit or anything, so if he survives, that'd be cool too. I'd be up for him joining the cast for sure. So that's everything, guys. I really thought that this was good. It was a nice little experience. Tell me what you thought in the comments for sure. Like if you liked the video. Subscribe for more Fear the Walking Dead, Tower of God, One Piece, and a bunch more, because I'm going to be doing a bunch of videos and covering all those series from here until forever, I guess, whenever I can no longer do so. But yeah, I will be covering all those series, so subscribe if you want any of that. Follow on Twitter for updates when I post a video or if anything gets pushed back. I thank you all so very much for watching, and I will see you all next time.